So what is your greatest challenge today in running your physical therapy private practice? Is it not finding the best personnel, training the best personnel, and then ensuring the compliance with all of your standard operating procedures so that they're proficient in every aspect of their post and that they're consistent in their employment long term? Well, we have a solution to this problem. When it comes to your front desk, you can have a live streaming, fully engaged person who's just operating the hours of the day and the week that you actually need them for. They can do all of your scheduling, all of your over-the-counter collections. They can do all of your eval calls, all of your rescheduling, cancellations, no-shows, co-pays, deductibles, plan of cares, fax filing, insurance verifications, and authorization. We will ensure that you'll never have to do another performance review, you'll never have to give another raise or cover another vacation or PTO at all. We will have your front desk stabilized long-term for your clinical benefit so you can focus on the patient care experience and the brand that you've been trying to build with your company culture. If this sounds intriguing to you, please contact us at Meg Business Management and learn more about how you can bring in highly trained personnel utilizing advanced technology to stabilize your practice's front office functions.
Welcome to the Physical Therapy Private Practice Secrets of the Top 10% podcast with your host, Brian Gallagher, PT. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Physical Therapy Private Practice Secrets of the Top 10%. My name is Brian Gallagher, I'm your host, and in this week's podcast, I want to help you to look at you and the impact that you have on actually leading your group. So we have been talking about personnel lately, and I think the reason for that is I've been getting a lot of questions from our members. We have about 1,500 members on our platform now. We have several hundred clinics, but 1,500 plus people who are working and sharing and exchanging thoughts, ideas, and successful actions on our Slack channel within our platform that only our members can see and benefit from. So obviously, I like to do this podcast to provide some help and help engage you in some means of thought or idea so that you can start making the changes to live the life that you've always envisioned for yourself as a practice owner. And secondly, I want to provide some tools and materials. I just don't want to give you thoughts. I just don't want to give you bright ideas, but I want to give you some workable solutions that you can actually apply the next day and make a change in your life. Skill enhancement is what brings you closer and closer to being an expert at whatever it is you're trying to apply in your life, whatever it is you're trying to do. So the definition of an expert clinician is one who has advanced training and advanced skills and experience in that field, and then they can speak about that topic in an expert fashion. They can operate in a high level with a high degree of expertise in that area. So that's my opening to this week's podcast on what is leadership. How can you best succeed in leadership? I'm going to do a 7-part series on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to give you more concrete 7 steps, 7 actions to follow, short little clips on YouTube that are easily digestible and duplicatable. I guess that's a word. Easily duplicated on your behalf so you can actually make a difference in your life with them. But in this podcast, I want to just give you some data. Let's just go over some facts. I think, I'm speaking a little fast here, so I apologize because I'm excited about this topic because I think when I grasped the reality that I needed to be a CEO, business owner, and leader who happens to have a PT degree, when I stopped looking at my physical therapy private practice as, I'm a physical therapist in private practice who owns a private practice. Oh, no. I started to look at myself as I'm a CEO, I'm a business trained leader for the benefit of my community, my staff, my patients, and my family dynamics. When I took that entry viewpoint, when I walked into my clinic, walked in the front door with that viewpoint, I'm that person first. And I'm a clinician second. I can go to any treatment table and thump the treatment table and get some good outcomes with my patients, but that's a staff therapist. That's what I went to PT school for. Now that I want to move up in the ranks of clinical director, owner, entrepreneur, it's a whole different set of skills. That's a whole different set of training that I never got in PT school. And that's what Meg Academy exists for. I'm not interested in giving you pie in the sky theoretical ideas of how to do things. I'm only interested in giving you advanced training and skills that you can apply that actually change your life and make a difference in your performance. In order to do that, let's look at some background data. Let's look at some background information just for a second. I pulled up some stats, did a little bit of research for you. I think it's important for us to kind of take a 30,000 foot view here. There are 7.8 billion people on planet Earth. Boy, this rock is getting heavy, right? There's a lot of people joining planet Earth. 340 million of those people are right here in the United States, okay? So obviously the lion's share of people are not within our borders. So that's interesting to kind of look at. Our average income in the United States right now is $87,000. The median income is $61,000, and the average home price is $454,000. The highest paid jobs in the United States fall into areas of healthcare, information technology, management, engineering, finance, law, and consulting/sales. So I pulled all this off the internet, so let's hope Google's kind of right. Think about that data for a minute. Things are getting expensive. Costs of doing business is going up at a faster rate than the income we can generate for doing that business. This is creating an income squeeze, which my solution to that is you have to be that much better at running, leading, and managing people, because your success in private practice is interdependent upon the success you can push down in the people around you. The better able you are to lead, the more successful your practice will be, and the better the brand will grow. You know, the more efficiently the brand will grow, or swiftly the brand will grow, and the more recognizable you become to your public. You need to be a differentiator out there in the community, out there in the public, in running your practice. You can't just sit there and say, hey, more evals, more new patients, more units, better business. More new patients, more units, better business. That's the old way of looking at it. We need to move forward. We need to grow a whole new generation that's operating with a progressive PT private practice model viewpoint. And so when I pulled the definition of leadership, it was so cheesy. Like, try this, guys. Check out the definitions they're going to throw out there at you. I asked Alexa and I asked Siri to pull me up several definitions. And I thought I was going to get like 5, 6, 7. I didn't. I kept getting like the same 2 definitions. I think everyone's cheating off everybody. I think everyone's pirating each other's definitions here. And it was either, number 1, leadership came up as a definition of the position or function, position and function of someone who guides and directs a group. I'm like, oh, okay. So the position and function of somebody who guides and directs a group. That to me doesn't fulfill, like, anybody can do that. That doesn't mean you're a leader. That doesn't mean you're demonstrating good leadership. You're just giving orders and telling somebody what to do. Like, leadership to me is much more than that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that strikes you as funny too. Then another definition that came up according to Webster is leadership is the power or ability to lead other people, the act or instance of leading. What does that mean? The act or instance of leading. Like, really, Webster? That's the cop-out second half of this definition? To me, it's a cop-out. The beginning started off pretty good. Leadership is the power or ability to lead other people. Now, what I've always taught is you should never seek to be liked or admired. So let's start with that principle. Let's come down out of the 30,000 foot view clouds on it, because this is the background that we're talking about. I think we can agree, if we're going to have a conversation, that society has shifted. And I'm not going to be doomer and gloomer here. I mean, we have generation changes, but honestly, we have a lot of people who've grown up at a time where they've been able to stay at home and get paid. They've been able to cut down their hours and get by. Work, has kind of taken on a little bit of a negative connotation in some people's minds. Well, look, let's stop right there. These aren't the people I want you to work with. There's not the people I want you to hire. If they're coming in and they're looking for this easy street way of living and they want to put in the minimal amount of time and effort for the maximum amount of outcome or return to them, then they're not your people. So we can complain and gripe about all the craziness that's going out in our society, all the non-working, unmotivated, lack of accountability, lack of responsibility people. I heard this in my own staff about 6 months ago. And I'm like, Guys, stop. I'm not interested in hiring a license with a heartbeat. I'm not interested in hiring a participant. I'm interested in hiring a contributor, somebody who's contributing to the cause because they see the value in seeing the group win and succeed, because in turn that allows their individual position to flourish and prosper within the group. So don't go into agreement with what you're seeing on TV and what you're hearing and with the labor market and people paying people just to come in for an interview. If you have to pay somebody to come in for an interview, I don't want to hire them. Like, seriously, what are we doing here? Are you crazy? Like, have we lost our mind? Leadership is sticking to your principles, sticking by your guns. Like, I am not going in agreement with the nonsense that's going on out there. And I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to give you examples. I'm not going to say this or that or throw it out there. You know what I'm talking about. You hear and see the same things I hear and see. So, leadership in Brian Gallagher Meg business management way of thinking is to not only help enhance your skills and abilities to think as a leader, but to give you the proper tools to apply with that new thought process, with that new awareness, with the new cognitions of what makes a good leader. And then we'll break into the actual tools. And I'm going to give you a few here on this podcast, but I'm going to break it down more in the YouTube series, and even greater breakdown and more thorough and specific handling of all aspects of leadership is within Meg Academy itself. So if you truly want to apply yourself to your maximum ability, then you would go through Meg Academy and you will see each and every post, each and every position, and how you can fully engage them at their level to get the greatest compliance through others. So concept number one, leadership is, I'm just going to give you concepts. I'm just going to bullet point concepts, okay? To just make this conversation even easier. So leadership is the ability to get things done through others. Concept one, the ability to get things done through others. Concept number two, the ability to look and listen and introspect, look within yourself, equally as much as you look outwardly to the environment, operations, and personal performance of those around you. So, concept number two, the ability to look and listen while introspecting and outwardly looking to the performance of those around you. In other words, digest the reality, get real, no justifications, no rationalizations, and stop getting reasonable. Oh, well, this time of year we always do this, or oh, well, that's what people need, or that's how they feel. Get over it. You've got to look at what's the greatest good. Concept number three, what is the greatest good for the greatest number of people that achieve the greatest outcome for all? Concept three, a leader is constantly thinking. It's not about making more money for yourself. It's not about, this I, self-driven means of operating. That is not what we're talking about. Concept, that was three, right? Concept number four. In order for that to be true, then you need to look at yourself and identify, what kind of executive do you want to be? What do you want to be? Do you want to be that type of owner who's an innocent owner who just fell into this opportunity and so you bought this practice or you took over from somebody who retired? Well, that's not going to help you be a good leader, because this isn't what you drove yourself to. You stepped into an opportunity that you didn't create, you didn't make happen, you didn't pursue, you didn't investigate, you didn't strive for. It fell in your lap. And now you're this innocent owner and all this stuff's happening around you and you just keep complaining about it. Or number two, are you going to be that caregiver owner who just hides behind, oh, it's all about the patient. Every decision I make is in the best interest of the patient. I'm not saying you make decisions that aren't in the best interest of the patient, but I'm saying everybody makes decisions in the best interest of the patient. That's not a reason to justify why you're not getting paid more than your staff, why your staff is making more money per week, per hour, per month, per year than you are, why you haven't had a vacation in 2 years, why you can't get distance from your practice and maybe have every Friday off so you can work on admin from home. Like, if you literally feel like you are, hog-tied to your practice and you can't get any distance from it, then you're the effect of the business you created. And if you hide behind the justification, well, I have to be there for the patients and no, I am driving a business to provide services to the patients within the windows of time that is in the best interest of my staff, myself, my family, my patients, my community. Stand behind your principles. What do you believe in? Being a martyr isn't going to give you great happiness, joy, and pleasure in the long run. And it's going to show disrespect. You're going to be disrespected by your staff because it's going to look like you can be walked on. You could become a doormat. Now, I know you can have this bleeding heart idea on this one, being the caregiver type owner, but I'm talking about it going too far. It's not that you're not sensitive and empathetic to your patients. That's not the message here. But you're doing it to the detriment of your practice, your employees, and yourself. You're literally committing crimes against yourself. The third type of executive you don't want to be is you don't want to be that know-it-all owner. Maybe you're listening to me like, oh, Brian, I know this, I know that, I know. You know what? I learn something new each and every day. I wake up and bounce out of bed wanting to learn something. I am not the center of the universe. I can always learn more. I can always do more. I can always be better. I want to be a better 55-year-old than I was 54-year-old, and that takes work. That takes investigation. That takes being humble. Be humble. Be humble. Approach your staff in a humble nature. Seek out collaboration. Seek out feedback. Seek out ingenuity from others that you can incorporate into your decision-making processes. That's leadership. Concept 5, right? I think I'm staying on track here. Concept 5 is be willing to accept input, feedback, innovation, collaboration, contributions from others. Be humble. All of that is 5. It all rolls in together in that beingness. Because what you want to be is you want to be that go-getter owner. This is the type of owner you want to be. The owner that knows what they don't know is what's holding them back the most. It's what you don't know that is preventing you from living the life you've always envisioned for yourself. That is keeping you from living and operating and working and performing at your most optimal level. That's what you want to be as an owner. You don't want to take second seat. So, concept 6. We're going to talk, let's jump out of concepts because this is more of an ability. So now let's talk about application. Let's talk about if you're really going to be good in surrounding yourself and building that team around you and you're going to delegate, work through others and get out of the way. Don't micromanage. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. Give them the post-onboarding training, give them the professional enhancement training, give them the products that they're supposed to be producing, and teach them how they're going to be measured and what the value of that statistic is. The statistical measurement of one's performance is the scorecard. It's not that they laugh at your jokes and buy you Krispy Kreme. It's that you have a measuring stick of their performance, and they're going to be reminded of it, and it's going to be represented and showed to them on a regular basis. Okay? So, ability number 1 to great leadership is the ability to confront. This is a very low skill in today's society, more than I've ever seen it in my 30 years. People kind of tend to want to just sweep things under the rug and sugarcoat this, and I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't want to tell somebody something they don't want to hear. I don't want to evaluate and judge. I don't want to be judgy. There is judgment, which could just be a reactive response to what you view in another. And it could be done in a manner that's very suppressive and hurtful and harmful to another. That is not what I'm talking about. That's the judgment and evaluation I am not talking about. The one I am talking about is that you have to confront each and every person in your life, personal and professional, in my opinion, from the training I've had, in a manner that shows that you have the ability. Here's where it is. Here's the definition. Jot this down. That you have the ability to say what needs to be said while remaining comfortable and doing so in manners. If you're uncomfortable and you're dodgy and you're twitchy on it, then you're not flat on it. You've got to be analytical in your approach. You've got to observe, you've got to decide and act Every good leader, that's a concept, not an ability, has the ability to observe, decide, and act. And when you observe, decide, and act, the actions I'm asking you to take is the action of confront. Not confrontation, not fight, not argue, but sit down and say, you know what, Bobby? I noticed blah, blah, blah. We've set the standards of practice to be ABC, and your performance is DEF. I need to know what can we do together to leave this meeting and have an agreed upon resolution as to how you're going to perform at the level that is expected of you for this position. Because I can't afford to have somebody in your position who's not performing to that level that I've just described to you. And it's very objective. It's being measured statistically, which is the bellwether of how we know how we're doing. Statistics are individual measurements. Metrics are company measurements on how we're going to perform as a group. Your individual contribution has a large impact on how we perform as a group. And it is my job as a leader to confront each individual member to ensure that you have the skills, training, tools, and abilities to perform at this level. If not, hey, that's fine. We can part ways and you can go find another position somewhere else that you're better suited for. I've done you a favor if I let you go and let you go do that. But I want to make sure that I'm not being hasty here, that I'm actually helping you thrive and succeed here, because that's why I hired you. I saw something in you in the beginning, which is why I brought you on in the first place. But you know, as well as I do, guys, as we're talking about this, people change colors. Sometimes after they come in, they can be a little bit of a chameleon, a little bit of I present this best foot forward in the interview, and then all of a sudden I show my true self. I show my true desires or interests, and maybe that doesn't match up anymore. And that's fine. 15% of all interviews, even at our level of highly trained staffing company, multiple thousands of interviews over the years, we'll get spoondoggled every now and again. We'll get somebody who wolf in sheep's clothing or whatever, however you want to say it. They snuck in. I'm okay with that. 85% correct is pretty darn good on the hiring line. So confront is an ability. The next ability is communication. Now, this one, you just kind of hear that and you're like, yeah, I know how to communicate. I'm a therapist. I talk to people all day. Communication includes listening. It includes duplication. It includes reciprocal response to what is being said. It includes your ability to tell the difference between somebody who's giving you an origination, an original thought, an original idea, something that needs to be acted upon, an origination, something that needs your response, your reply, an action, versus a comment. People can make comments all the time. You have the ability to ignore the comment. Don't pick it up. You have the ability to say zero, nothing, reply nothing other than an acknowledgement that you heard it. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Got it. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's all I'll say. I'll just acknowledge to the human being out of respect that I heard what came out of their mouth. Doesn't mean I got to do anything with it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. You don't have to agree. You don't owe them anything. If they're just commenting on something, oh, Brian, I see you're wearing black shirt today. Oh, you look better in colors. Oh, okay. Vivid colors or pastels. I don't know what they would say. I don't know. I'm just making it up. Brian, you're a highly trained manual therapist, but we have an orthopedic practice here. Kind of think you should probably round out your skills in some other area. Oh, you do? Oh, so glad that you've been thinking about my clinical. I mean, I'm just making it up, right? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to get into a fight. I'm not going to drive this conversation downtown and into a spiral. I'm like, okay, good. Thanks for that thought. I don't have to do anything with that. I mean, not that anyone's going to say anything like that. No, an origination is, hey, Sally, your documentation, according to the policy and procedure manual, is to be in by, 10 a.m. the next day, every day, so that we never fall behind. I've noticed for 3 weeks running that hasn't happened. What can we do to work out a better system for you so that your documentation is in by 10? Because we can't afford not to get our billing out every single day by 2, and we can't do that if the documentation isn't up to date every single morning by 10. So what can we do to make that work? It's not my problem to fix. I'm coming to her out of courtesy with good communication. What's the definition of communication? I've given you examples first. Now let's talk definition. In my opinion, what I have presented on in multiple talks and presentations and PowerPoints, I always like to use the definition of the ability to articulate or use body language to ensure duplication while being equally proficient in duplicating others, resulting in understanding and acknowledgement. A lot to unpack there, right? So basically, I'm saying communication isn't just verbal. So communication is the ability to verbalize, articulate, and use body language, facial expressions, to ensure that you've shown the person that you've duplicated what they've said, while being equally proficient in duplicating others. Oh, I'm sorry. My first part of my own definition is to ensure that others are duplicating what I've said and that I'm doing the same thing back to them so that I'm equally proficient in duplicating them, which means I have to listen and I have to respond. I have to show facial expressions. I can't be so stoic like a piece of rock. And it results in full understanding because I acknowledge to them that I understand what they've said. See, duplicating, like, okay, I've heard you and I can duplicate what you're saying, but I have to think about what's being said so that I can say, oh, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you're saying what you said. Same thing with the other person. When I'm talking to them, they have to understand what I've said. It's kind of like, all right, so recently I've got 2 young teenage gentlemen working for me here on my farmhouse property. And each day they show up 3 days a week. I have a whole list of duties in this app called Connect Team, which I really love. It's a great work responsibility. It's a great battle plan app. I use it every day with these guys. And then what I do is I pull off that list, because I keep pumping things into it, right? I pull off that list and I bullet point onto a text message what the 6 things are, 5 or 6, sometimes 9, but always between 5 and 9 items I want them to do in an 8-hour day. I put them in order. Every morning they come, we do a morning muster, we sit down, we talk about the things on the list, the items on the list, and I explain each one as I want it done to its completion. And I ask them, so what does that mean to you? How does that look to you? How is that going to look when it's finally done? And they have to explain to me what I am trying to say to them. Because I need to know that they've duplicated it and I need to know that they understand. And then I need to acknowledge back to them, okay, good, you got it. And then I zoom off and I sit down like I am here working in my office while they're out there today, filling dirt holes with the tractor and grading it out. And they know it needs to be a mound and it needs to be high and feathered. Do your therapist understand why it's important to get 3.75 units with each and every patient engagement that they have? Do they understand it's not because we're trying to make more money? Do they understand it's not because you want to buy a bigger boat? Do they understand it's not because you're greedy, but it's because that patient deserves a high volume of patient care for their $30 copay or their $40 copay? That if you are not giving them an over-the-top exchange and abundance plan of care or personal session engagement, then what are you doing? The patients aren't here for us. We're here for them. Why is it that I'm asking you to be 85% efficient? Why isn't it that you need a net promoter score of 9 or higher? Why is it that I'm tracking your quality, your efficiency, and your productivity? Not because I'm trying to be a work ogre and I'm trying to burn you out. That's not burnout, folks. That's work. And you have a degree of accountability to that work. But if they're feeling that and they're whining and moaning and complaining, then you haven't communicated why they've accepted this position. You haven't communicated what they're here to achieve for themselves, for the practice, for the community. They're here to perform in the top 10% of their license. They're here to provide optimal patient care experience with an advanced level of training of clinical skills. They're here to be clinically efficient and not talk about their weekend tailgate party. And when they could be doing documentation while the patient's working out right in front of them, and they're sitting there visually. Not to say you can't have some social banter, for sure you can, but my goodness, don't over document, don't over narrate, don't over verbalize with your patients. Stay on point, stay focused, stay social, stay with a good demeanor, connect, relate, duplicate, but keep it in the professional vein. Communication is key. Communication has been said in some of my earlier training that it could be looked upon as the universal solvent to all problems. Almost every problem you have with a staff member is over communication, under communication, or miscommunication. I spent a lot of time on this ability because this one here is the one that will have the greatest impact on your work-life balance, your happiness as a practice owner. Put effort here. Make sure you're using facial expressions, verbal, duplicate, show duplication, show your expressions, acknowledge people for what they say, and act upon things that are actual originations, not comments. Next ability to good leadership is to be able to have a level of exchange. You can't dictate success. You can't be a dictator. You can't just these stupid definitions, the position and function of someone who guides and directs a group. Really? That's the definition of leadership? All I have to do is guide and direct. All I have to do is just go through my list and tell people, tell my two gentlemen out there what to do. My young gentlemen. Those guys are great. They're good workers, young kids, and I'm trying to shape them both, mentally, but I'm trying to shape them in their personal integrity, and I do that with my company. I've got 90 employees and I shoot staff training videos and I have management training with all my middle managers, and I'm trying to shape their viewpoint on how they want to live their life, both personally and professionally. I want them being validated for their professional performance and being acknowledged for their personal behavior, who they are as a person. And I want those two attributes to marry together. I want them to see that they don't just check themselves at the door. Like, they have to be transparent with us, and I have to be transparent with them. Transparency breeds trust. That's another concept. I think that's concept 7. Transparency breeds trust. So there's 7 concepts for you. And here's the third and last ability, the exchange one. Let's get back to that. Man, I can easily get off these topics. There's so much that goes into leadership. I hope you're really processing this because you didn't get this in PT school. I'm sure of it. You got all this clinical stuff, but you have to be able to understand that your success in private practice is the ability for you to surround yourself with the best and the brightest people who are consistently good at operating above your quality bar, your bar of acceptability. And that comes from exchange. This requires that you have the discipline necessary to hold others accountable for their actions, and it starts by you holding yourself in the highest of regard so that you have respect with others. So if you value yourself and you value others and you hold yourself accountable to others and others accountable to you, then you have the level of exchange that you need in place in order to actually be a good leader. A leader is a respected individual within the group. Good leadership. I'm not talking about just leadership or being a leader. I'm talking about good leadership. You earn respect. You can't buy it. You earn it. And you earn it by being held in high regard for your performance, because you hold yourself accountable to what's needed and wanted for your group as much as you hold them accountable to what's needed and wanted to be delivered by them to the group. Individual members of groups only win after the group is winning. So I know this podcast, guys, was pretty thought heavy. Let me give you a few tools, and this is going to be our parting way. If you want to be successful in these 3 abilities of confront, communication, and exchange, you need to use tools. The tools you need to use is the two-way street, status sheets, defining one's product, and a management action plan that is written on a weekly basis. You have to have a management action plan that's written on a weekly basis. You have to track the results of their efforts on the status sheets, and you have to have their mental mindset, their mental viewpoint correct with the two-way street lecture. You have to educate them that they're getting this, this, and this from the group, pay, benefits, whatever, and they have to exchange efficiency in being 85% efficient, 3.75 units of care or greater for production, and high quality of outcomes through Net Promoter Score of 9 or higher. If we haven't agreed on that, all the doing this doesn't matter. You need individual agreement on what the point and purpose is, what we're trying to achieve together. This is a collaboration. That's what this is. That's what this is about. This isn't working for the federal government where you're just exchanging time for money. Nobody really cares what you get done, which is why they just keep hiring more and more people, which is why the budget just keeps getting bigger and bigger. They're doing way more, way longer, way greater expenses than, there's so much fat and fluff, which is, anyway, I'm not going to get off on that. We are all the victims of their incompetency. So set that over there on that shelf, and let's look at the private sector where you are, which is the largest sector of our economy, is in the private sector, and that is you. And you chose to do this because you were blissfully discontent to some degree, and you wanted to have more cause in your life than effect, and I applaud you for that. If there's some of you listening and you want to be really good at this, I mean really good at this, and you want to have the tools that apply to make it easier, so that you know what you need to know in advance of needing to know it, because a snapshot of you today, you want to look completely different when a snapshot of you is taken 5 years from now. You do not want that to be the same. You want to grow personally and professionally. Reach out to me, please. Do a practice assessment call with me. You may be a staff therapist, a clinical director. You're thinking about starting, or you're already in private practice. You want to open office 2, office 3, or you haven't had a vacation in 2 years, or you're like, Brian, I am totally the effect of what I created. I am not living my life in work-life balance. I am not enjoying every aspect of my life, and I want to. Reach out to me. We can help you. Meg Academy's got like 1,500 members nationwide and growing every single day. We are doing billing for people, credentialing for people, virtual front desk for people, so you don't have to manage as many people. No more performance reviews, no more raises, no more covering time off. Make that nonsense go away and just get down to focusing on clinical care. If that's music to your ears and that's what you want, I can help you reform your practice to get there. And I can make sure you lose no quality of experience in doing so. So that's it. This is all for you. I podcast every single week because I love you guys and I want to see you thrive and succeed. I want to see you live the life you've always envisioned for yourself, and I want to advance the physical therapy profession as a whole. So, as always, start each and every morning expecting to do well.
This has been another episode of Physical Therapy Private Practice, Secrets of the Top 10%. If you want help implementing the successful actions of the top 10%, visit our website at www.megbusiness.com to schedule a free practice assessment. Thanks for listening. And as Brian always says, expect to do well. Like what you hear? Be sure to rate and subscribe to the show. See you next week.